experts that we're working on has presented their progresses, and at that time we have informed that the assessment have started, but we have not presented the outcome and also the structure that we intend to implement. So I would like to welcome now and Abdurrahman Awdar, His Excellency, former Minister of Education, to provide his introduction, then follow up with the Shafia, his team, his co-worker that is working on this thematic area. So Abdurrahman, His Excellency, welcome.
Thank you very much, Abdel Fattah, and very good morning to all colleagues. I don't want to take much of time. I would like to listen from your feedback after the presentation, but I want to give the floor directly to Shafi to take us through the presentation, and I will also come at the end of the presentation and are ready to respond your questions and feedback if any. So over to you, to Shafi.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. It is nice talking to you all once again after 2 months since we had our initial presentation in August. During August presentation, we started with an initial discussion and also a couple of logistic requests. I will not be able to check the chat box for questions. We will please take note of all the questions that you might have, and also my colleague Wazir Abdurrahman will take the note of all, and then at the end of the presentation we will discuss one by one. So I'm going to start as a refresher with a quick introduction of the assignment, the system. Next slide, please. Okay. Yes, I have the slide. As a quick introduction of the assignment, the system transformation grant entails 2 specific top-up triggers to be achieved by December 2024. One of these triggers is related to development and implementation of a financial framework. As you can see on the screen, with the overall purpose of strengthening administrative and financial management at both MOCHA and FMS level. I will not spend more time on the introduction of this top-up trigger, and we will jump directly to the next slides. Next slide, please. I cannot change the slides, sorry. More specifically, the assignment for us was to thoroughly review relevant national and international policies, procedures, and best practices to inform the financial framework development. We were also assigned to engage in extensive consultation and collect insights and build consensus on the framework design, and also at the end to propose achievable, sustainable, and also more inclusive structure to be well aligned with MOCHA and FMS, as well as donor the GP requirements. To achieve these objectives, we adopted a multi-layered participatory approach that included primary data collection through extensive consultations, key informant interviews, focus group discussions, and of course, thorough literature review and analysis of the existing policies, procedures, and strategies that I am going to discuss with you all these steps in next slides. Next, please. We consulted around 100 plus individuals from MOCHA, from FMSs, all concerned FMSs, teachers, head teachers, CECs, private sector, and implementing partners. We also conducted specific interviews and engaged in discussions with the current and former officials of the Ministries of Education and subject matter experts. We also reviewed national and international policies. We thoroughly reviewed the national level strategic plan, and also We benefited from the assessment reports, including the fiduciary assessment. We reviewed documents from the World Bank, documents and reports that were shared with us. And also, we conduct analysis and review of the documents on financial governance of the Somalia, and also analysis of the current management practices of the MOCHA. So the findings, recommendations, analysis of all these policies and strategies were documented and informed the development of an assessment report with a proposed structure of the financial framework that we will discuss later in our presentation. Next slide, please. Today we are going to present the findings under two major categories. And we are starting with the first category related to the current financial management practices for Ministry of Education, Culture and Higher Education. Under the first thematic area of legal framework for the financial management, Ministry of Education, Culture and Higher Education manages its financial and operations in compliance with the Public Financial Management Act and other guidelines issued by the Ministry of Finance. And also, MOCHA has developed and uses ministry-specific financial management manual, which has been developed in consistency with the Financial Act. The findings also reveals that MOCHA has a systematic approach of financial planning in place, led by the Director General Operations and under the leadership of His Excellency, the Permanent Secretary. Though there is a good understanding of available policies governing the financial management, specifically with within the embedded staff, those who are paid by the development programs, the specific recommendations here are that those who are dealing with the financial management related matters really receive comprehensive training, specifically the civil servants who have limited access to trainings and capacity building opportunities. This will happen through comprehensive departmental training, need assessment to inform the development and delivery of tailored training programs. The final recommendation under this thematic area is that the MOCHA to conduct an evaluation of the new structure to assess its effectiveness, which will inform necessary adjustments. Next slide, please. Under the planning and budget execution, according to the new structure of MOCHA, the roles and responsibilities at the higher level have been agreed, specifically related to financial management. However, there is dire need for MOCHA to formally publish the new organizational structure, which will ensure more clarity at all levels in terms of responsibility and accountability. And this will not only help MOCHA and those who are working in different functions of the MOCHA, but also all those implementing partners who are working with the ministry. And also the ministry uses the national level financial management system, national level software. However, there are practices at the FMS level that we will discuss in later slides. Another major recommendation is related to revision of the current financial management manual for MOCHA to match with the new structure. There have been changes to the roles and responsibilities, so to ensure accountability and transparency in the financial management processes, the current financial manual should be revised. Next one. Under the accountability and transparency, the federal government of Somalia has developed comprehensive policies and procedures, because throughout this assignment, we were dealing with many policies, we reviewed strategies, policies. So we realized that there are sufficient number of policies and procedures to ensure accountability and transparency in managing financial or procurement or general operations within all ministries, including the Ministry of Education. The Auditor General audits, they are also auditing different sectors of the FGS, including MOCHA, and they provided recommendations and published reports, which adds to further transparency and accountability. But I can say with all these achievements, the assessment still suggests that certain improvements, including revision of certain policies within MOCHA, is necessary to ensure compliance with the national level governing policies and procedures, because implementation and compliance with these policies is equally important. The recommendation also include the establishment of a follow-up mechanism to track the changes against made recommendations by Auditor General, and also conduct mandatory trainings on compliance, financial management, and procurement for all those who are responsible and dealing with these issues. Next slide, please. Finally, under internal control and audit procedures thematic area, 3 major areas have been recommended that require priority, I can say, action from MOCHA. The first point is to establish an internal control and audit function at MOCHA. Down the road, as we are moving to findings from consultation events, this point has been confirmed repeatedly. And this has been also flagged as a high priority area in the Auditor General reports. The second area is related to establishment of a permanent procurement committee to ensure full compliance with the National Procurement and Concessions Act. The last one relates to the development of MOCHA level procurement manual, which has already been in progress, and the manual development will be completed shortly. That is, we can consider that as a completed action, but still we have documented as part of the assessment report. Next, please. Prior to commence the consultation, with advice from the ministry, a detailed consultation plan was developed and approved by MOCHA and the grant agent. With feedback that we received, it was agreed that the consultation sessions should be focused on 8 thematic areas. The purpose of suggesting these thematic areas was to better understand the context specifically related to existing financial management practices, challenges, engagement of responsible entities at different levels, and also specifically resources mobilization. The thematic areas, I have listed the thematic areas, included policy alignment and strategic goal, resource mobilization, budget planning, allocation, resources distribution mechanism, financial management accountability, capacity building support, stakeholder engagement, monitoring, and evaluation. Next slide, please. I think we already talked a lot about the process and methodology from where we started and how we started and how many people were consulted. In this slide, I have listed around 10 major findings that we are going to discuss one by one. However, it is worth to mention that each of these areas, some components also documented that our time will not allow to go through each and every tiny detail of the findings and recommendations, but these are the high-level findings. The next slides will be high-level recommendations that I am going to discuss. But I will briefly present the findings first, and then we'll have more deeper dive into recommendations and specific examples. And this will also provide all participants in our call today with an opportunity to share their feedback, to put their questions in the comment box, and we will discuss at the end. So the first point is shared vision of holistic engagement of stakeholders. According to our assessment, the meaningful engagement of stakeholders was reported almost across all thematic areas. So the participants suggested that limited and in certain cases lack of shared vision for meaningful engagement is one of the major challenges. The main recommendation is that this area should be thoroughly addressed in both design and implementation of the financial framework. The next one, resource mobilization, was suggested as another important thematic area, and the participants repeatedly suggested for development of a structured resource mobilization approach. They wanted that such a standard approach should serve as a roadmap for mobilizing resources from communities to donors, and also additional support from the private sector and the government. The participants in general believe that with no clear strategy for resources mobilization, it will be difficult to ensure long-term and sustainable support to the education sector. The third one was, sorry, I lost the screen somehow. Can you please disconnect and reconnect?
Say it again, sorry, say it again.
I lost the screen. Can you please disconnect and reconnect and reshare? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
Issue.
And you see it now.
Yes, can you please go back to the another slide? Yes, please stay here until we finish all points. All findings, and then we will move to the recommendations. And the third area was allocation of public revenue to education sector. That was another high-level finding. The participants and the interviews with the subject matter experts also highlighted the allocation of public revenue at both FGS and FMS levels, such as VAT, value-added tax, to the education sector, through establishing a more comprehensive mechanism and strategies to ensure transparency, accountability, and a robust financial oversight. The fourth one was contribution management and efficient use of resources. The participants believe that further improvements in transparency and accountability in managing contributions, an efficient use of mobilized resources that they usually refer to as resources management is essential to bridge the gap between different players and build trust among stakeholders. The fifth one was participatory budgeting and strong local governance. Almost across all sessions, from the consultation workshops to FGDs and the interviews that we conducted, the consensus is that the participatory budgeting process and budget allocation align with the educational priorities, and socioeconomic needs should be included in the financial framework. So the sixth one, the recommendation is further expanded to the need for improving the internal control measures. So the major recommendation is to establish internal control and audit function at both MOCHA and FMS level. This was one of the findings in Auditor General reports, and also the same as the finding from our assessment. The participants believe that having internal control functions and regular audits supported by follow-up and tracking mechanism that we will discuss in next slides in more detail will improve educational service delivery and will lead to improved financial capacity. Around establishing and improving collaboration mechanism among stakeholders, the findings suggest that in the recent years, steps have been taken to improve collaboration among stakeholders, but according to them, much more need to be done. The participants and subject matter experts that we interviewed confirmed that clarifying roles, responsibilities, And also awareness raising at all levels on what are the responsibility of each player at different levels, as well as targeted capacity building trainings will support the government efforts of providing quality education. Number 8, under the monitoring and evaluation thematic area, many areas were highlighted, including the dire need for real-time reliable data to support informed decision-making, needs-based allocation of resources, and clear roles within the existing structure. The participants specifically focused on very clear mechanism and platform to monitor the implementation of the financial framework and make necessary evidence-based adjustments as we are moving forward. And that has been thoroughly considered in the proposed structure that we will put on the screen shortly. The school improvement planning process and role of CECs, to get a more deeper understanding of the school level services delivery, focus group discussions were also held with DOs, and these were in addition to formal consultation workshops that we had at the Mogadishu level. We had FGDs with DOs, REOs, teachers, head teachers, CECs. One of the most important findings is related to SIT planning and implementation. There are concerns related to ambiguities in role and responsibilities, and sometimes we can say limited or no engagement of some key stakeholders in school level services delivery. And according to our findings, almost all participants believe that the common perception is, and that is also same as the case with us as a consultants, that CECs should link communities and schools and play a catalyst role in addressing school-related challenges. They should play a role in needs identification, in development of SIPs, and resource mobilization. But many of these areas are either missing or in practice the potential has not been fully utilized. So that is something that we have also great recommendations that we are going to discuss. The final point about clarification roles and responsibilities to improve school level service delivery, the discussion was that in the upcoming financial framework, from the SIP development to any other school level services delivery, the participant, though the participants use the ambiguities in the system as an example, but they requested that all steps of education services delivery should be clarified, and everyone who play a role in the system and the process, that should be very clear in the upcoming financial framework. So from here, we will move to the recommendation in the interest of time. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. We will stay here until we reach point number 13. On the point number 1, increasing domestic funding for education, the positive trend of manifold increase in domestic funding for education sector by FGS is appreciated by all participants, and that is a good news. However, with all these progresses made, according to the information that we collected, the sector is still relying on roughly 70% of funding from the funding agencies and donor and development programs, which clearly signals the need for increasing domestic funding. So several recommendations were made, including prioritization of sustainable domestic revenue generation for the education sector. The participants also recommended standardization of taxation policies and revenue allocation at the FMS level. And the last recommendation under this area was high-level agreement on taxation policies between FMS and FGS, FMSs and FGS, and also a long-term commitment on allocation of a specific percentage of taxes for education sector. So these were the 3 specific recommendations to increase the domestic funding for education. The details related to these recommendations will be further explained in the resource mobilization strategy that we are going to discuss shortly. The next one, on streamlining the process to address contrary perspectives at different levels. So I can say somehow civilized disagreement of perspectives. So subject matter experts and the people that we interviewed considered the signed MOUs between FGS and FMSs as a foundation document, and they were quite positive about the interministerial meetings. They are hopeful that will boost the collaboration and understanding. However, the recommendation is to consider practical steps at the operational level in the framework development. So according to them, if we further break down those high-level commitments into more practical steps on operational level decisions that will address the contrary perspectives and differences in priorities between two levels, which is definitely FGS and FMSs. On the next point, community engagement and social mobilization, we all, including the people that we consulted, acknowledge the role of communities and CECs in supporting the education sector, and they have been quite supportive over the past 2 or 3 decades. However, it was also noted as an area that require further support and investment to mobilize efforts in a more structured manner. The most important recommendation is to establish social mobilization directorate at the FGS level. And also it was further recommended that similar structures should be in place at the FMS level to take ownership of the social mobilization, CEC capacity building, management and resources mobilization, national level awareness raising. So that is the main recommendation under this area, to have a social mobilization directorate and smaller structures at the FMS level. In the assessment report, the development of social mobilization strategy has also been recommended, but I'm personally really happy that, and also that's a good news for everyone, that the MOCHA has already advertised for the development of this strategy. So we can contribute and we can help and share our insights and recommendations from the participants for the development of this strategy. The next one, again, I have listed as definition and clarification of roles and responsibility. We already discussed, and in the interest of time, I will skip further discussion on this point. So I will move to standardization and strengthening SIP development and implementation. As we discussed under the findings, that we wanted to know more about the SIP development and how the service delivery is happening at the school level. Our findings show that SIP is a valuable tool for imposing responsibilities and could be used as a roadmap for school level needs identification, or I can say prioritization and implementation of improvements. But the findings further suggest several inconsistencies from the development stage to engagement of those to be engaged, and also to implementation and monitoring. The specific recommendation here is that not only ensure SIP development as a mandatory practice or tool for school improvement, but we should also link the SIP development to broader financial planning and resource allocation process. So that is the major recommendation from the field. And the next one related to policies, development, revision, and harmonization. The participants believe to achieve a shared vision and strategic objectives, the sector require harmonized policies and procedures, at least for major functions, if not for everything, because we know the condition and the context of each FMS might vary. So at least on major functions, there should be a shared vision and also harmonized policies. The insight and responses that we received to this question on availability of financial management manual, for example, or procurement manual, or allocation procedures and other important documents, those were hugely different from, the responses were from non-availability to completely different practices among different states. So that will make it a bit difficult or challenges to ensure more, I can say, a shared response or a shared vision to achieve the high-level strategic objectives if there are such inconsistencies in place. Internal audit function and establishment, I am going to skip this as well because again, that was one of the recommendations, that there is need to have internal audit function, not only at the MOCHA level according to Auditor General report, but they wanted the same function with the smaller structure at the FMS level to help them with tracking the improvements and also compliance and so many other areas that we have already documented in our report. So 5 minutes remaining. Okay, great. I have just 3-4 more points and I will pause there. Resource mobilization and management. Though we partly discussed under the community engagement the recommendations that were related to resource mobilization and management, but 3 major areas were recommended specifically related to resources mobilization and management. One was the establishment of social mobilization directorate and smaller structure at the FMS level. The second one was the social mobilization strategy that the ministry has already started to work on that. And the final one was the development and implementation of resources mobilization strategy, which is part of the current consultancy and the current assignment. For the next one, capacity building, at the beginning, capacity building was considered as one of the thematic areas to know what are some financial management related capacity gaps that we need to address. But that was recommended by all participants as a more cross-cutting area, and it was unpacked that the capacity building through tailored training programs should be provided to all those who play a role. That will be from school administrators, that we are referring to head teachers here, to CECs, DOs, and REOs. On the follow-up and feedback mechanism, the lack of appropriate follow-up and feedback loop mechanism was reported as a major reason for ineffective implementation of planned improvements. The participants believe that in certain cases there will be specific recommendations, but in the absence of a tracking mechanism, usually these remain unattended. And also they wanted us to consider this as a vital element of the financial framework. The last 2 are related to state level. One is the cross-cutting and one is state level specific recommendation. The participants recommended to achieve a systematic change and shared vision, and also FMSs and FGS work towards strategic goals. There should be consistency at the planning at all levels. They also recommended that FMSs should develop state level plans that will be well aligned with the strategic goals of the ECSP. They're envisioning that this will help FMSs with financing allocation, resources to education sector, and other contributions that they need to finance their state level plans. And finally, I'm going to conclude my presentation here that everyone is appreciating Ministry's efforts and investment on EMIS platform. But they also recognize the need for further investment in school-based and school-level data collection platforms. So they suggested that we should benefit from the existing system, such as in other sectors, for example, EVC, and we should establish more low-cost technological solution. They think that this approach will not only ensure access to real-time data, but will also help with timely decision-making actions for improvement. So my apologies that I took longer than expected. I will pause here, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Dahir Osman, Wazir Abdurrahman, to walk us through the proposed structure and next steps for this assignment. Over to you, Wazir Abdurrahman.
Thank you very much, Shafi.
Slide.
Next slide, please. In the last two slides, I just want to give you a summary of where we come from and the way forward. So the proposed structure, in line with the terms of the contract and the TOR required for this financial framework development, initially Fox was given 5 thematic areas. That is including number 1, budgeting, allocation, and financial management. 2, financial reporting and accountability. 3, resource mobilization, management, and risk mitigation. 4, training and communication. And 5, continuous improvement, monitoring and evaluation. But however, after immense consultations and discussions with all concerned parties, including the donors, EU, Ministry of Education, both levels, and also findings from the analysis of the collected insights, the planned structure has been revised, and the current structure intended on 8 main thematic areas and 4 cross-cutting, as you see on this slide. The first thematic area, government structure. This includes all levels, federal level, state level, if you come to the state, regional level, district level, and school level. Second, funding flow and mechanism. This is also how and where the funding and also the revenue is going through. So criteria based single treasury account, and also this will be a normal reporting and monitoring and accountability mechanism based. So transparency here is also an important element. And resource mobilization and allocation, this is also very important, how the resource is distributed, as the institutions and federal member states are building up. Still, there is no final agreement that also define how the funds is being allocated. There are some MOUs, but again, I say the final agreement in line with the Constitution is not yet there. Needs assessment and the budget planning. This also should be a comprehensive participatory planning, needs assessment, and school improvement plan development. The pillar 2, which is execution, accountability and reporting, capacity building and programming, and supporting mechanism. Also, the other 4 thematic areas which are very important. Execution is addressing budget disbursement, adjustment, and also school implementation planning, and mainly at the school level and district, but also all levels in the government structure system. Accountability and reporting. This is said much in the finding. Accountability system, internal control, external audit, reporting requirements, and all standard indicators are in place. Capacity building program, training needs assessment, staff training, continuous development, and also support mechanism, which is technical assistance and resource materials. In the center, you see cross-cutting. These are also 4 areas that we or considered or came out as a cross-cutting areas. New policy development, follow-up and feedback mechanism, new function of social mobilization, which is also very important, and monitoring and evaluation. Next slide, please. The final slide. Yes. You see here, we have indicated different colors. If you see the cream one, the first row, consultation workshops, and also first and second. The second included key informant individuals. Both are completed. Also, federal member states and federal government district levels completed. Analysis on the findings and literature review completed. Assessment report completed. We are now in the green one, which is presentation of finding of proposed structure. In November, we are developing the actual financial framework, submission of financial framework for review and inputs to all partners, and validation and finalization of financial framework and approval. That is in December. Training of key staff, December. Implementation of the financial framework also in December. And again, the final point for the next step is monitoring and evaluation, revision and adjustment. And that will be ongoing for the next 2 years until this program for TP finished. Take a note that this is not kind of procedure manual. It will not also operational plan, but rather comprehensive framework or a guideline. We believe this will help the ongoing transformative process for the application system in Somalia. I thank you for your attention and listening. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for my colleague, consultant. I stop there, and we are ready to respond. Any question if you have. We also welcome your feedback and comment, if any. Thank you very much. Over to you, Abdul.
Yeah, thank you very much, and His Excellency Abdurrahman, and also Shafiq for that detailed presentation. We'll just take 5 minutes Q&A, and I will kindly request from all members to be very short and to the point. So I'll start with Adam that has raised his hand. Adam, welcome.
Thank you very much, Abdel Fattah. I should be on sharp. We thank Professor Abdulrahman and his colleague Shafi for the good job they have done. I have one question and one comment as an oral submission from EFASOM. The first question is, while you were doing assessment, have you came across budget utilization, low level of budget utilization? Because this year, 2024, the government of Somalia gave the Minister of Education 75 million. Is this 75 million, the ministry is utilizing 100% or 50%? Because historically, in the education sector analysis, there were problem of low level of budget utilization. As the Education Sector Analysis 2021 reviews chapter education budget, low level of budget utilization is a history for the Minister of Education. So I'm asking, this year, have you came across any budget utilization low level? My comment, and as an oral submission and as a comment, we thank you for the financial framework we are developing, and by December, I hope this deadline is very crucial for all education sector. I propose, on the name of EFASOM, that we include a sort of lobbying domestic financing for education sector at the level of ministerial level, because the Minister of Education now, they are getting funds from the government, and they are only utilizing 5 sectors: the recurrent costs, and the teachers' salaries, and other sectors like the University of Somalia, National University of Somalia, and the Academic of Culture, something like that. These sectors are not enough, so we are now thinking in the future to include capital expenditure, to include infrastructure, many schools, because number of percentage of children in Somalia are 3 million, or more than 3 million children are out of school. So to make this school back to school, we need to construct more schools. We need the government to dominate education sector and make education free primary education. I propose in your financial framework, you include mechanism that the Minister of Education to lobby increase through the member of parliament, through the office of prime minister, through the office of president, so that, and through the cabinet themselves, so that the increase of budget should be at least 12%, 15%, 18%. Now the level is 7%. Please, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you very much. Let us try just to take extra questions, then we'll give the opportunity or experts to respond then. Yes, Morton, welcome.
Hello. Thanks to the consultants for quite comprehensive presentation. It's also a very technical presentation with a lot of details that, in a way, let's say the ultimate goal of what the financial framework wants to do can feel a little bit difficult to grasp, perhaps. In my understanding, but that's maybe just my understanding, the ultimate goal of this exercise, or the success of this exercise, would be if the central government, if Central Mwece becomes able to channel funds through the federal member state ministries of education and all the way down to the school level. I mean, for me, that's the success criteria. If this exercise can help us progress towards like laying down pipes that enable funds to flow from central government to the school level, and as such, I think it's an exercise that is of interest to all the stakeholders in the sector, because we will all benefit, whether we are in a small NGO, or even if we are in a larger one, or in a donor agency, or wherever we are, I think we will, I mean, all school children would benefit if that succeeds. But I think it's not at all an easy exercise, and there's a lot of links in that chain that has to function well in order for funds to be able to reach schools. And I think, yeah, December 2024 is the deadline for completing the framework. But one thing is to have a framework, something else is to actually ensure that what the framework sets out becomes reality. And I think it was hinted at in the presentation that, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. So we just encourage really everyone in the ESC to try to continue engaging with this work, and I guess in subsequent discussions, I'd be curious to understand where people think the weak links are, or the difficult links. I mean, there might be some of these exercises that are simple enough to overcome, and there might be others where there would be a lot of resistance because there's vested interests, etc. You know, there's, when you have a dysfunctional system, there's always people who actors who will be benefiting from the dysfunctionality, and if you're trying to change that, you'll face resistance. So I think I'd like to, as the work evolves, try to understand that a bit better, and really encourage everyone to add their voice to how this can lead to concrete results. But thanks for very detailed presentation. Over.
Anyone else that wants to comment or provide any question?
Good afternoon, Abdul Fattah. Do you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Yeah, let me thank you for organizing this important meeting and the team who are here all. Also thank the colleagues from the technical experts who have prepared this document. I would really appreciate. And I think we are now on a presentation of finding stage, and we'll be proceeding to the development of the financial framework document. But I want to recommend one more information which was we have also shared with them during the consultation. That is when you are sourcing the economic sources to fund this financial framework, we have suggested that given that all our partners now support only primary educations, and most of the education sector support comes from the education partners, and what the government is allocated is very minimum, just like 7 to 8%. We have suggested that they should think of identifying alternative sources of income generation sources for education sector, which can be locally generated. Like, for example, in the secondary sector, most of the children, they pay a lot of amount of money paid by the private sector. If the government can also introduce a way that they can just enforce some kind of income generation sources from the secondary with a subsidized price, which the children can also go to the school, and then they can generate some kind of income generation source for the government. That would have even increased the budgetary allocation for the education sector, which would also improve the quality of education sector in the secondary sector. When we have done the review of the ASP last year, we have seen that the support for education for secondary sector or for secondary subsector was very minimal. It was almost less than 10%. And there's a lot of gap in the secondary, and the private sector, the parents have been paying a lot to the private institutions for their children. So if the government can also come up with similar approach in a subsidized price, I think this would have been a better way of solving the gaps in the secondary education. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you very much. And I think let us wrap the questions there, and I will give the opportunity our consultants to address those questions and comments. If you have any extra comments, please, we request kindly to write in the chat box. And we request also from our consultants to be with us and for 30 minutes so they can address those comments and questions that comes in the chat box too. Welcome, His Excellency and Shafia, to address the comments and the questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Abdel Fattah, and thank you very much for the good feedback and questions by the floor. I totally agree with Martin that this is not an easy exercise, and we are also still happy to receive your comments and feedback in also making this a successful framework. So this is very important. Actually, we could have said a lot, and because of the time we cannot say a lot. Although you think this is details, if you see the recommendation, we just consolidated a 10. But this is also a comprehensive and consolidated recommendation. Similarly with the findings. So we are still. This is a bit cream, but we are still on a development stage. When it comes to Adam's question, and I see that is more comment than question, related to the budget. Execution of budget is always a challenge, and there's also a lot of bottlenecks, and exactly one of the reasons that this exercise is looking is to unveil where those bottlenecks in this process are, and we believe that at the end we will have at least a kind of microscope that will identify the weak links. I stop there and give the minutes that left to Shafi if you want to also contribute a bit.
Well, thank you very much. You have kindly addressed many of the areas. First of all, about the question related to spending rate of the ministry, we discussed and we reviewed the planning and budget execution, and that was part of our recommendations, that what needs to be done to improve budget planning and budget execution. So how the current structure and what changes to be made, and what steps the ministry can take to address that area. But specifically, we didn't go through the spending rate, that what has been already spent and what is left from it for this financial year. The second question was from Adam related to allocation of funds towards specific needs. Yes, we have that as part of the budget allocation. Needs-based budget allocation was one of the thematic areas. We have documented the findings and also the recommendations from the participants and ministry officials and subject matter experts. Regarding the Martin's question, Wazir Abdurrahman kindly has already addressed that question, but what I can add here is that related to how to flow funds towards schools. The last, we have addressed all steps to help us to reach that point. So towards reaching that goal, we have to improve, we have to change certain steps and the way we are currently working, and how the MOTA should address the specific recommendations, should take specific actions and steps to reach that point, to enable the ministry and the FMSs to direct more funds towards schools and to help schools to decide on what are the specific needs and how to utilize the available funds for them. So including the capacity, that what capacities do we need, what policies do we need, what policies should be revised, and how the way of working and the current practices should change. Definitely, that is one of the critical areas. We have taken note of that, and we will definitely consider that in the next steps. And the final one was about this journey. As Wazir Abdurrahman kindly mentioned, these are the initial steps that we are taking. We might not have a comprehensive and complete financial framework in place. So we will start initial implementation. And as you saw in the last point, as part of the next steps, that for the next 2 years, the ministry, FMSs, and all other stakeholders will work to generate evidences, to inform, to monitor the implementation, and then decide on certain revisions and adjustments. So that is a good start, as you kindly mentioned. However, this is a long journey, and this will continue, and with commitment from the MOCHA and other ministries and FMSs, hopefully one day we will reach that point. And the last question was from Tahir about the increasing the financing sources or increasing domestic funding. Definitely, as we discussed about the private sector engagement, about the social mobilization directorate as part of the ministry structure. And also we had one specific point about the resource mobilization strategy development. All these areas will be addressed in those specific thematic areas. So it means that we have considered. However, as we are moving forward, as I said, the ministry might bring necessary changes after the initial implementation, and once they monitor and they collected more data on what adjustments needs to be made to the financial framework. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Shafia. And I would like to give Sabul to do the final comment on this. Sabul.
Thank you, Alfita. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so thanks. Actually, I don't seem to have a comment on the presentation. Quite impressive. Shafi and our former minister, they took considerable time in the beginning to understand the assignment, to build consensus, to frame, and I think the outcome is certainly visible. No, the reason why I took the floor is just for information purpose for the EAC members. As it has been said that this financial framework it's a GPE trigger, that is right, but also it's a benchmark for the EU budget support. EU provides budget support to the federal government of Somalia. And over the years, we have tried to maintain education as a sort of focal sector within this budget support operation. And consistently, we've tried to incentivize certain reforms. And for this year, we have this financial framework, which is shared with the GPE. So it's quite important that as the EAC members, we work very closely with the team to ensure that we have a sort of administratively a sort of a final product delivered by the end of December, sort of the document finalized and signed off by the ministry, and that will actually pave way for the disbursement of the amount linked to this trigger on the EU budget support side. Now, actually, for 2024, we have two sort of benchmarks. So one is the financial framework, and the second benchmark is also linked to the National Teacher Initiative. Last year, we had a similar benchmark, which was achieved. And then we decided to extend that to this year because of the second phase of teacher recruitment. And just in terms of wording, the benchmark on the teacher recruitment says At least 1,500 new additional teachers are hired after successfully completing initial training as part of the National Teacher Initiative. And I think we've got feedback from the DG last time that this particular activity is well on track, unless otherwise. So I thought I should use this opportunity to update the ESC members on this. Otherwise, we look forward to reviewing the report and sort of supporting the final phase. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll stop there, and the team will just continue in their plans, engaging with the different stakeholders. And if we need any checkups or check-ins in the coming EEC regular meetings, we'll also invite them to do those check-ins as well. So thank you very much for those comments and presentations, and also questions. So now we'll go to the next.